Thank you, Professor Phelps. My name is Lu Mai, and I speak in Beijing, China. Thank you to invite me to talk about socialist China on this conference about capitalism and society. So the political system are different compared China with the US. But in terms of a market economy and human being, we can find many similarities. Today, my topic is China's journey toward social equity. Social equity has been the aspiration and one of the most important values of the Communist Party of China. But CPC used the term common prosperity as the key concept to tackle the issue of social equity. It is easier to bring people together by proposing prosperity as the goal of development and emphasizing the process of achieving prosperity and the common responsibility, instead of just point out the fact of inequality. And it is more acceptable by people from a different income group in China. Today, I will talk about the 4 points. One is what is a common prosperity. Second is why. And the third is how. And the fourth, as the nonprofit organization, China Development Research Foundation did something, a pilot project on the early child development in the poor rural area. So I make a short introduction about that. First is about what is the common prosperity. All the Chinese leaders provoked the common prosperity, but Chairman Mao believed that's a socialism transformation and believe public ownership and the planned economy can bring the common prosperity. So he did establish an independent and relatively complete industrial system and did many great things, but resulted in the even distribution of wealth with little incentives. So some people said this is not a common prosperity, but a common poverty. So when Deng Xiaoping came to the position of the leader of China in 1978, he promoted reform out of planning economy, started opening up, adopted the incremental reform strategy into the market economy. He made it very clear, and he said that's a big policy. He said allowed some people to become well-off first, who then inspire and help the later comers and realize the common prosperity in the end. So that's become the Chinese leader's approach to the social equity, the common prosperity through the market economy. Jiang Zemin followed that. In 1993, he integrated the planned economy with the market economy through the macroeconomics reform and SOE reforms. 40 million of workers lay off from state-owned sector, and half of public-owned enterprises go to privatized. So Jiang also led China into the WTO and started a serious development program for the balance of regional development. And then with the economic growth and the money of budget revenue, Hu Jintao started 2003 to balance the urban, rural, regional, economic and social and human and natural development. He abolished the agricultural tax and launched several social security programs, including the full coverage of a pension and the healthcare insurance for the urban and the rural residents. In 2013, Xi Jinping followed the process, and he mentioned that we should deepening reform across the economic, social, political, cultural, and ecological sector. And he did good things to eradicate the absolute poverty across China, and vigorously promote the anti-corruption campaign, reverse the situation of environment pollution, and successfully build a moderate, prosperous society. So we call it 全面建成小康。And so that's we can see the two different approach. Chairman Mao is the pioneering economy and started from Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, Hu Jintao, and Xi Jinping. They try to build up a common prosperity society through the market economy reform. So what about the common prosperity? And this is in the new era with the concrete goals. There's a different view on the common prosperity, but in China, I think these four is a consensus. One is it refers to affluence shared by everyone physically and intellectually. Second, attaining affluence through the hard work and the innovation is encouraged. Third, it will be achieved under the condition of market economy. And the third is the strength balance of efficiency and fairness. So the plan by the CPC Central Committee on this common prosperity mentioned the goals. The goals is not a specific by number, but it include these several things. It's by 2035. It should aim to expand the size of middle income group. That's one. Ensure of equitable access to basic public service. That's the second. Third is significantly reduce the disparity in urban-rural development. It's 4 and 5, and in the living standard. And it says that the per capita GDP will reach the level of the moderately developed country. So is this goals reasonable? Let's see. In the last 43 years, we see the big changes happened in China. In 1978, China's GDP per capita is just $200 US, compared with the US is 150s. But last year, China's GDP per capita reached 10,000 US dollar, and 1/6 of the US GDP per capita. And we can see the poverty reduced significantly. In 1978, 80% of the Chinese people live in the poverty according to the World Bank standard. But last year, by same standard, is 0, the absolute poverty. So that's quite success. And also we see the quite different lifestyle, transportation, shopping, and payment, and daily life. So we never think about we can travel abroad so easily, and we can buy a car, a private house, and so on. But all those become the real reality. So with this 43 years performance, I think CPC earn credit, and people think we can achieve those common prosperity in the future. 35 to 2035 is 15 years. It's quite long, or it's short, but 15 years for politicians. Should we believe it or should not? But to see those performance, I think they earn the trust. They have some credit for this. So this is one. Second, why is the common prosperity important? We see that this number, China's social equity status. In 1978, the Gini coefficient is just 0.18, but by last year is 0.46. It's quite high. Good things is stabilized, but the bad things is still quite high. So although we have no absolute poverty yet now, but if we look at income group, 50% of Chinese people live in those family. Their per person monthly income is less than 2,000. 22% of them is less than 1,000. That's a quite big number. 310 million live in less than 1,000, and half of Chinese people live in the less than 2,000. That means yearly income for those family, half of Chinese people live less than 11,000 US dollar per family per year. So it's still a long way to go. Good thing is 20% of Chinese people now is in the middle class group. The total number is 370. So expanded rapidly. But if we think about another half of the Chinese people, we need to working on this. What's the reason of this? We can see the geographic reason, history region, technology, or structure. The structure issue is the issue like a hukou system or like a tax system and so on. So it's need government continue to reform its system and need a coastal area who get the rich first to help the rural area and in the central and the western area, the people. So how to achieve the common prosperity? And here, I would like to cite the Professor Phillips' book, Mass Flourishing. He mentioned that the original prosperity of the nation was a modern value, such as a desire to create and explore and meet a challenge. This value triggered the widespread and integrated innovation, and the innovation are driven not only by talent, but by the millions of people. The mass flourishing was created by mass innovation. And we see that in China, actually our premier 李克强, like the theory made by Professor Phelps. And his slogan is mass entrepreneurship and innovation. And we see the result with the government improve the business environment. Now the big expansion. In the 1978, the business entity is only less than 500,000 in China. But this year, by October, it reached 150 million of entity in their market player. So think about this, one of the 10th of Chinese people involved in those business activity to try to create the firm, the cooperative, or personal business. That's really very, very encouraging. And I would like to mention the three cases. One is Nian Guangjiu. He used to be a farmer and work in the rural area. He created a small business, and in 1986, he became the first millionaire. And at that time, I worked in the research center of rural development of State Council, and someone said we should criticize him because exploration he did. But Deng Xiaoping come out, speak out, and say, let's do his business and see the results in the later. So he now have three company in his family and listed in the stock market. And he is more than 80 years old and still do some salesman sale. Second, this is two colleagues in Development Research Center of State Council, our friends, now a 2 billionaire. One is started a supermarket in China in 1994. Another set up a insurance company and other business. Now both of them are billionaire. Two in that's 1,000 of a Chinese billionaire. And they generate, donate the money for our project. The left one, Zhang Wenzhong, donated 10 million, and about the right one, Shen Dongsheng, donated 20 million. So successfully create the business and share the prosperity with others. So we talk about the 1980, 1990. Now is continue the upward mobility. This is the farmers used to be migrant worker. And we do see the mass flourishing. People themselves are the ones who propel reform and who are the beneficiaries. But how, if we want to achieve common prosperity, we do realize on market economy, but we see the income disparity. So those are some measures should be taken. One is for migrant worker. Now they have a freedom to move to settle in the city, but they need a housing service. They need access to the public school, and they also need a care education for their children. And also their income should be guaranteed, should be 60 hours of work per week, not like now. It's very long days for them to work. And the second is the taxation and the social security. Now it should have a property tax reform. And also the basic public service and the social security policy should be improved. It's accumulate too much money for the individual account, but not very efficient to use it. This is the second. The third, it should encourage, they call the redistribution, third redistribution, the donation. If we compare with US, the donation for the social philanthropy is still quite low, not very high. Let's go. And fourth, we should improve the business environment and strengthening the rule of law. So we should continue the anti-corruption campaign, to campaign against the organized crime, and improving the efficiency of the government to support the business. And also, we should emphasize the quality of education at all levels, especially in the rural area. Now, all the new entrant labor forces get better educated, but for the education, the quality in rural area is still not very good compared with the city. So it needs working on this. And the government's approach is to launch a pilot to test out the measures of that work. So I mentioned it's a rural revitalization strategy for the rural area. 100 county was appointed as need a special help. Second is pilot for property tax in the 10 cities. They allowed to start this tax. And Zhejiang province now is get the assignment for the experiment of common prosperity. It become the demonstration zone. So started from a pilot and then expanded nationwide. That's Chinese government's strategy for the reform and policy making. So CDRF did some experiment in the earlier days. We are here with that 9 project started 27. So we cover from womb and to the job. That's what we call it. Some already become the successful national program. One is Students' Nutrition Improvement Plan. Is started our program in the 2 counties, 20 students in our project and 500 in the comparison. So the result now is become the government policy is 40 million students get the benefit from it. And also nutrition sachet and others also become the policy influence. So we got that from the US. We learned the US has a lot of research in those areas. So we see the Hackman's curve. We see that Harvard's the picture. So in China now, it's about 30% of the children still live in the village level, and others live in the township and the city. So in the village, they especially need help because in there the parents, migrant worker, leave their left behind. So with some other single mother and some other problems. So we did a pilot project for home visiting for the 0 to 3 and village kindergarten, one village, one kindergarten, preschool for the 3 to 6 years old children. So because of the time, I'll show you one video.然后就简单说一句，说有人照着就一直走到最后就完了，就看那个他们那两页，他们。
His grandmother was cooking, and great-grandmother needed to do farm work. Hao was growing up alone, and he can only grow up alone. The journey from the township to Hao's home is an 11-kilometer ride through the mountains, passing by 15 bends of a winding road on yellow soil and snow-covered Huangtu Plateau. But it's not a note that no one cares about. When Hao and his family first met Jiang Lingjuan, they were shy but curious. That's when things began to change. In Huachi County, Qinyang, Gansu Province, children from 6-month-old to 36-month-old receive home visiting from China Reach, systematic and scientific parenting intervention from China Development Research Foundation is carried in home visitors' canvas bags to remote mountains. Home visitors and supervisors here has grown from just kind strangers into a rebuilder of the whole family environment. Children like Hao don't need to grow up alone anymore. Over 2 years, China Reach's parenting intervention has increased the proportion of normal results in developmental screening tests by 51.4%. Families that received home visit compared to control group scored 4.96 higher in home environment assessment. We are willing to go to the most remote regions to devote ourselves to secure the first 1,000 days of a child's life with the warmth of family. Here in the Shanganning border region, the idea of access to childcare is germinating.
Professor Heckman and his team did some assessment for this program. They will see the result. But since the time is limited, I come to the conclusion. We can have a cooperation between US and China because both governments aimed to improve the people's well-being. So US has many experience in equity that China can learn from. For example, the Great Society movement since the 1960s. The program like a Head Start program, earlier Head Start program, No Child Left Behind Act. So China's wish and measure to achieve a common prosperity will not harm the US economy. Professor Phelps said during China Development Forum 2020 that China's realization of common prosperity will have internationally significance. The accumulation of the human capital and the development and innovation technology in China will also benefit and increase the increased wage level in China will also lead to an increase in the wage level in the US job market. So welcome to China to see the result, to see the changes after this pandemic. We can see the right one is Professor James Heckman from Chicago University with the Tibet, the home with China Reach program. The left one is former CEO of McKinsey, now is ambassador, Canada ambassador to China. So he, Dominic with Bijie to see the program. Welcome Professor Phelps and others friends to come to join us. Thank you. Thank you.